New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Why, hello there. It's me, yes, Bonnie Gonzalez, your doula for grief. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I just want to say I am a grief coach, a registered nurse, a religious science practitioner, and a licensed soul collage facilitator, and a human being right here on the planet with you. So I'm just welcoming you today. If this is your first time joining us, know that you've come to the right place to start your recovery from grief. And if you're returning, I am so honored to have you back. So thank you. And my whole mission and what we're doing together today, it's just that we're moving the needle on grief, bringing it out of the shadows and into our daily lives through conversation. And what I always say that loss is what we experience. Grief is what we feel. Grief needs to be heard. Grief needs to be shared. And most of all, grief needs to be validated. Grief has the magical superpower to heal us, change us, transform us in a positive, life-affirming way. So why don't you join the conversation by dropping a comment or a question in the comment section. And let me just explain just a little bit further on loss and grief. And just that loss is defined as any expected or unexpected occurrence where you cannot go back to the way things were before. Example, of course, death. Death is the big mother of all. I bow to that. But divorce, a diagnosis, a geographical move, natural disasters, birth of a child, puberty, graduation, job promotion, all of those things can bring about loss or can be viewed as losses. And grief is defined as the collection of normal, quote, natural emotions that follows a loss. And that can include sadness and anger, but also can include numbness, confusion, guilt, anxiety, and even joy. And just knowing that whatever you're experiencing is normal for you. So with that said, I do want to take a moment before we bring on our powerful, dynamic guests. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that today we are celebrating the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr., who needs no introduction. And just in case you want to be reminded, he was an African-American Baptist minister from the South. And he became the most influential and prominent leader of the civil rights movement through his belief in and practice of nonviolent protests while advocating for racial equity, racial equality. He received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964, but sadly was assassinated 4 years later. And so I just want to honor everyone, honor Dr. King's work by just stating my favorite quote. And I'm sure we all know I have a dream. But this is one that just sticks with me that I can, that's relevant to my everyday life. And this one is from Dr. King's Loving Your Enemies. And he says, returning hate for hate multiplies hate. Adding a deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And that's the end of that quote, just very brief, and it just touches me every time I hear that. So today, why don't you read read some of Martin Luther King's writing and find your favorite quote. Last week, which was not last year, last week my guest and I discussed the power of ritual and ceremony. So we could make our own ceremony around Martin Luther King's birthday. And what I've done is I have a candle lit and that favorite quote written down. So that's my ritual, my tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King. So thank you. Thank you. So today we're going to explore navigating living losses. That is our theme today, navigating living losses. As I read before, losses appear in so many ways, in a myriad of ways. So I have a really powerful, fantastic, super guest to bring on. And I'm just going to read her bio. And then Joe, right after the bio, could you show our video? So I'm going to read her bio, and then Joe's going to honor us with a beautiful video. So my guest, Judy Henderson. Judy Henderson is the owner and CEO of Mannequin Madness, which is the largest mannequin liquidator in the United States. And she's the only African-American owned mannequin company in the whole world. Mannequin Madness sells a variety of new and recycled mannequins from e-commerce and brick and mortar stores. Her customers, I know it's like customers for mannequins? Yes. Her customers are retailers, museums, Etsy sellers, trade show vendors, photographer, fashion designer, crafters, Burning Man attendees, shibari aficionados, Halloween set designers, and more. Mannequins have been, she's so creative that she has adapted her mannequins into crafts that you can come in, or you can contact her later about online classes to make dress form, Christmas tree, attract customers worldwide, and she also offers floral crown headdress classes with free mannequin heads in the warehouse. So I am just so honored. And also want to just quickly add that Judy has also received numerous awards and achievements for her work with mannequins to preserve the environment, keeping them out of landfills. And some of the awards that she has received have come from Goldman Sachs, British Airways, White House Leadership Award, and the Environmental Protection Agency. And she's been written up in some highly reputable publications such as the New York Times, San Francisco Business, ABC's Localish, USC News, and the Huffington Post, to name a few. So before we dive into our subject, Joe's gonna treat us to the video. Thank you, Joe.
I called it Mannequin Madness because at first I thought I might be a little crazy doing this. I'm a woman with no experience in an industry that no one's really heard of. Everyone kind of looked at me a little side-eyed. What are you doing for a living? My name is Judy. I'm the owner of Mannequin Madness in Oakland, California. We sell new mannequins, recycled mannequins, and we put together DIY projects involving the use of a mannequin. Mannequin Madness began as an accident in 2000. At the time I was working at a .com startup, and everybody there was a serial entrepreneur. Now, at that point, no one looked like me who was an entrepreneur. I'd never thought about entrepreneurship, but I thought this could be maybe an interesting little side hustle. Realized that department stores were throwing away mannequins if they were closing or remodeling. I knew there was a need for a secondary market for these used mannequins, but the stores didn't want to deal with that. So I started with 50 mannequins that I bought from the seller on Craigslist. In a 6-month period of time, I went to 500 mannequins in my inventory. So we went from renting to selling. We started using our photo studio where people could come in to rent to take pictures. And then when e-commerce came along, I was able to apply new technology strategies to an old school business. And that really propelled me to a whole new level of success. Mannequins are made of materials that do not biodegrade. Fiberglass, plastic, styrofoam, metal, these things do not need to be put in the landfill. But prior to us, that was kind of generally what most stores would do. So we make it easy. We make it free for them. I have a network across the country, so I can pretty much recycle mannequins in most major cities throughout the US. I say we average about 300,000 pounds of mannequins every 3 months. I had no idea it had this kind of potential, but I've always been big about how can we repurpose something and create some more value out of it. So that's really what drove me, and making money came along with that. We're going to be on target this year to reach $1 million in sales. For a small business like us, that's a big target. It's called Mannequin Madness for a reason, because you don't know what you're going to see when you get here. We have a warehouse/showroom. Our inventory changes depending on whatever store we're working with. So today we got a truckload of mannequins from a department store. Next week we may get something from a smaller boutique. People use mannequins for all kinds of art stuff. You know, I have mannequins in the garden. I've had mannequins that I've turned into lamps. I even have a little mannequin that's shaped like a little butler that has a little tray. I like that there's a little space here where we really, like I said, being creative and allowing other people to be creative as well. I feel this is the greatest time in history for an African-American woman to start a business. There has never been so much emphasis on support, giving people visibility. Even though there's a lot of challenges, in the 20 years I've been in business, this has been the best time ever. You really need to have technology for your business. At my age, I'm starting to learn how to be on TikTok. Look at my family. I've never seen a whole family of such interesting looking mannequins. Here I'm a midlife woman. I'm in my 60s. I'm far away from the fashion capital. All these things that technically I should not be a success in doing this, and I am. And that really makes me excited.
Wow, wow, wow. That's all I can say. And I am excited to bring on my beautiful, powerful guest. And her name is Judy Henderson. Welcome, Judy, to your Doula for Grief. I hope Judy's still there. All righty. Well, until Judy comes back, what I was going to say, I wanted to start on a high note with that note, because Judy's story is here today. Judy's story is talking about a living loss. And unfortunately, Judy was not always so successful. And I want her to share her story of having had a business that was not successful. And I always talk about, that losses can occur in the form of a loss of a hope or dream. And so with that said, a loss of any kind, some, as I said before, some losses are, if you want to term it bigger, such as death, they bring out the same emotions can come up. But what I wanted to touch on with Judy Hopefully she's able to get back in to share with us some of the emotions that she went through. Oh, there you are. I knew you were back.
Yes. I was laughing. I was like, Bonnie, how are you going to tie in mannequins with grief when I was looking at the video? But you found a way.
Oh, I found a way because it's not mannequins and grief. It's about humans, the experiences that we have as humans.
Right.
Be you an owner of a mannequin or a registered nurse, but we're all human. So, Judy, thank you. I knew you'd be back. I had faith in the internet. But I was just saying to the audience that things weren't always, we showed that beautiful video and it's like, wow, how can this be about navigating loss? Right. And so that's what I wanted you to share with us, if you would, what your other experiences were prior to having Mannequin Madness be a mad success.
Well, I love how you say living loss, because so many times in our society, we rarely deal with grief in general. And we do think about grief. It's often the death of somebody, a person, but we don't often think about a death of a dream or a death of a lifestyle or a death with the disappointment. And that's what my grief is about. It's amazing when I see where the mannequin business is now compared to when I had a business that I started in my 30s that failed miserably, that I didn't really allow myself to grieve because I didn't really realize that was something I should grieve. But in reality, I was in deep grief. And for the longest, I never would have thought that I would be an entrepreneur again based on that death of that business.
Right. And what I want to say to that, Judy, as you talk about that, is that we're not in our society taught to deal with loss at all. It's like, suck it up and don't be a poor loser. It's not whether you win or lose. We're never even said it's okay to be heartbroken that you lost that game or you lost that car. So yes, to that's where it starts, I feel.
And recently I read the book by Sheryl Sandberg, Plan B, where she talks about the grief that she went through when her husband died. And there are 3 things that she said in there that I'd like to add in terms of part of what happened for me. That one of the things you do, she called the 3 Ps. Personalization. We believe that we're at fault, which is what I certainly thought. Oh, I'm a horrible business person, so it's my fault. Pervasiveness. Belief that the event is going to affect all areas of our life. Because my confidence was truly rocked. That was the first time I'd had a major disappointment for something that I really, really wanted. So it really devastated me for a while. And the third P is permanence. Belief that the aftershocks will last forever. So personalization, pervasiveness, and permanence. And I'm going to add my own, which was prolonged. I prolonged my suffering just because I did not adequately give myself the opportunity to grieve. Once I started taking some measures to heal, everything changed. Not just regarding getting back into business again, but other aspects of my life as well were impacted. But the most visible being that I got the courage to go back and be an entrepreneur again.
Right. And Judy, was there initially when you had that loss of the business, was there any sense of grieving that came to mind? Or was it later on, somewhere down the line, that you realized, wow?
Much later. My feelings before were just more about shame, embarrassment, certain some sadness around it. But as you said, I really just kind of like licked my wounds in private and just thought, okay, I'm going to stay away from that over there. That being entrepreneurship causes pain, causes suffering. I'm just going to completely, and I went back to corporate America where I was equally miserable, but at least I had a steady paycheck. So I stayed with that. But no, I wish I knew that I was really grieving. I really feel like I could have, minimized the pain and suffering I went with. Doesn't mean that I didn't experience it, but it's nice to kind of experience it and move on. Instead, when it just continues to just kind of drag out, and there's just such unhappiness that permeates all aspects of your life, I think I could have just cut my losses a little bit shorter.
I was going to say, did you also experience some people talk about experiencing regret
Yes,
for
absolutely.
having,
Yeah.
and how did that show up for you? I'll put it that way,
Yeah.
regret in what?
Well, I think there was just a general sadness I had around me, just in general, in all aspects of my
Mhm,
life. I felt like
mhm.
something was broken or damaged inside of
Right.
me. I wish that I had been able to go to some sort of support group or something just to talk to other people, because
Mhm.
later on, when I realized most everybody has some sort of major disappointment in business. Look at
It's
Steve Jobs, right? It
oh
wasn't
my
until I started
gosh.
hearing other people's experiences that I realized this is normal to kind of
It's
have learn from the experience. Don't make yourself a failure. Instead of saying, I had a business that failed, I'm a failure at business. And just
mm,
a little twist in those words can make such a difference
yeah.
in your reality and how you see
And
yourself.
say it once more. Just repeat that.
Instead of saying I had a business that failed, I
Mhm.
said I am a failure at business.
Ooh, that's what you were saying.
That's what I was saying about myself.
You were doing the
Totally
personalization.
personalization,
Oh,
exactly.
it's
And that
me.
I'm never going to be able to recover from this again. That kind of
Right.
I'm a little dramatic anyway, so I definitely went very dramatic with that. Okay.
That's okay. We love
Okay.
drama. We love drama. Judy, was during that time, was there anyone that you could take that to? Any place that you could take that?
More,
In hindsight,
yeah.
looking back.
More indirectly, what happened was shortly after that business failed, I got in a relationship, and he and I went to get couples counseling because we were going through some challenges. And the process of going for marriage counseling, I ended up uncovering all these other things that obviously were impacting the marriage, right? If you're
Mhm.
sad or feeling less than, that's going to impact how you are in your marriage
Oh
or
my God,
relationship.
so
So
true, so true.
uncovering that then led me back to my losses and the grief that was unprocessed about my business.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
ironically, the business I started then thinking about business in a different way. And when this opportunity came up with the mannequin business, I no longer had this fear about doing it. Now, I still took it slowly. I wanted to do
Mhm.
it part time before jumping in 100%. But it's like I got my mojo back.
Right. I want even back up a little bit further, back to the business that was not successful. Not that you weren't successful, you
Yeah,
were successful,
yeah.
but to that business that was not a success at that time. What even led you to? What was your mindset? What even led you to think that, wow, I can start a business? What was that? What was
Mm.
that about?
Well, partly I always wanted something that was more creative than what I was doing at corporate jobs, for starters.
Mhm,
And I wanted more kind of freedom and independence. And even though there hadn't been anybody in my life who was an entrepreneur, and this was way before we started talking
yeah,
about girl boss and boss lady, like I said, I'm an
mhm,
OG, as they say, old G, in terms of trying to be an entrepreneur. So I don't know, it's just more like a spark. I can't really explain it. And I think that's what really made it difficult with the grief. It was sort of like I trusted my intuition to do something. And when it didn't work out, then I started doubting my intuition in other aspects
mhm,
of my life.
mhm.
So there wasn't
Right.
any kind of one thing that led me to it. It's just kind of like, oh, that seems interesting. Oh, that seems fun. And it was the same thing that came along when the mannequin business opportunity came. But by that point, I was just in a different place. I was
Mhm,
more
mhm.
mature. I was willing to go in more gradually. Obviously, I had other experiences. So I was willing
Right.
to trust my intuition this time.
Right. Because I know we had talked a little bit before about your previous business, and you alluded to something that you had a different passion, that you didn't feel as passionate with
Oh,
the.
yes. Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes. When I
yes.
was trying the other business, while it definitely was creative, my goal was more like, oh, this seems like a great way to make a lot of money, because there was no ceiling on what you can make. It was a little bit more commission based. It was in the arts field. I was like an artist representative for various designers, graphic designers, photographers. So I just was looking at the money opportunity, not that I had a big passion for it. Where the
Mm,
mannequin business was completely opposite. I didn't really realize, I'm sorry, I got a little lipstick there. I didn't realize there was an opportunity to make money in it. I just like
mm.
mannequins. And
Oh,
so my passion drove me versus the way to get income. Now,
Mm-hmm.
later on, the money did come. I mean, I know that's a cliche, do what you love and the money will follow. And, that's true to a point. You still have to work hard to have that money follow. But I didn't mind working so hard because it was something I loved doing. When the
Right.
other business, I didn't really love it as much. So I find that either I didn't work as hard, or when I was working hard, it felt hard. When I work
Mm-hmm.
like the mannequin business now, it doesn't feel hard because I like it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I call it my passion versus work. When
Yeah.
I'm following my passion, I could probably put in even more hours of research.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It's like, oh my God. I tell my husband, honey, I found this and I found that.
Right. And you have so much energy too, where I find more creative thoughts come through because I'm kind of like in that flow or in that kind of zone. So that's why you mentioned some of the other projects that I had with mannequins. We started with mannequins, then it became mannequin crafting projects. Then it became renting out our photo studio using the mannequins. And then it was one thing to another. Mannequins were the common thread, but because I had so much enthusiasm about it, I was freed up to create more opportunities versus shut down when you're just only looking for money.
Yes, and that can be that's the part that can be defeating. That is the part that can be totally defeating. And I don't want to, just like skim over that or brush over that. I want to ask you, how did you feel when you talked to your friends about your previous business? Was there any embarrassment when talking to friends?
Any.
Why want you to give me your experience?
Gosh, yes. I mean, it's that whole thing, when the truth will set you free, where initially the more that I was trying to hide it or shame by it, it was like carrying this baggage on your shoulder or something.
Mm-hmm.
Once I could just kind of put it out as the past, as like something that happened and didn't have any charge about it. And if anything, could use it as a motivation to share other people that, yes, you can experience this. And yes, there is life after that. Not unlike back to the topic with the grief. Yes, we can experience loss. And yes, there still is life after loss. That loss does not have to define you all the time. It's a moment in time.
Right. And I always feel that, yes, we can hold deep sadness, deep pain, but we can also be in joy. We can also hold deep bliss. We can have both. It doesn't have to be
either
one or the other.
Exactly.
No matter what your grief is from, know that there is space for the other emotions to flow into life.
But you do need to do some work to make that happen.
Yes, and we're getting to that.
All right.
That's what I'm proud of.
That's why we need the doula for grief to help pull it out of us. I think first of all, to allow us to have the feelings. I mean, I think many times I was trying to shut them down because I didn't want to feel that pain. I shut it down. Where I think if I allowed myself to really fully process how devastated I was feeling, I think that would have helped in the process. Okay. Then to be able to put those feelings in some perspective, right? It was like that one incident. It wasn't like my whole life in the past or the whole life going forward. But, many times we can't do that alone. We need some support system, whether it's a doula or a therapist or a good friend or a support group. I cannot minimize the importance of being able to have some sort of support group and something spiritual as well. I've been a Buddhist now for almost 40 years. And, initially when things happen, I was like, mad, like, why did you let this happen to me, universe? And instead it's like using that as a learning opportunity. But it takes time.
Right. And what I did want to ask, because I did ask about, I think I asked you about regret, having had regrets.
Yeah, you said, did I have any? And I said, lots.
Right. So, lots. But turning that around, that sometimes regret can allow us to examine or dissect that loss. Like, wow, I regret that I didn't call out for help sooner, or that I didn't move to another state. It helps you maybe to plan ahead. It could help you in the planning of your mannequin madness. Did you find any of that to be true, or that was just too much distance?
I wasn't that evolved. No.
Oh. Well, that's when you need a doula for grief.
Exactly. I mean, now that you say it, I can look back over time, hindsight, yes. But at the moment, no. I was still, just stuck in my pain.
Right. And Judy, do you feel that even though you felt like you had resolved the first loss of a successful business, just the loss of that, do you think you carried just a weeny bit of doubt going into Mannequin Madness that it would pop up, whatever would pop up, whatever would be your mental verbiage?
No, Bonnie, you know the answer to that one, okay?
Those out there, we want to help others.
Yes, okay. The reason I'm saying that, because yes, I've been doing this for 20 years. The first 10 years, definitely, I still had some of that. I had that imposter syndrome. Once again, we're talking way before you started seeing more women as entrepreneurs. And one day I had a disappointment, and I called Bonnie to say, I'm a loser. I feel like such a loser. And Bonnie just allowed me to have my feelings of let my loserness come out. I said, we laughed about it, but you allowed me to feel it versus try to talk me out of it, which I really appreciate it,
Exactly.
So, and ironically, I think that really helped in terms of over time, I felt less and less of that. Even when something didn't work out in business that I had looked forward to, I no longer went to that sense of regret or a loser, or I shouldn't be doing this. It's like, I really feel like I healed that, but it definitely, because I was doing it without any support at first, it took a whole lot longer. Once I could at least call you and say, Bonnie, I'm a loser. Because I didn't know that many other friends who were entrepreneurs at the time. So I didn't feel like I had anybody else who could really relate. So many people thinking, oh, you're just so lucky to have your own business. And they didn't really realize a lot of the backstory that was happening there. So I kind of felt a little isolated for a while.
Right. Because so many times those people that we think we can, or that we turn to confide in, want to make us feel better. Well, oh, don't feel like that. Oh, that happens. Oh, girl, you'll be bouncing back before you know it. And I'm just saying this so that those people that are listening and that want to support someone through a difficult time of loss, just allowing them to name what it is that they're feeling. Like Judy, we always laugh about the loser. But if that's what you're feeling, allowing it to have a name, because what you resist will just persist. And that's an old cliche.
I think we're just now starting to have that kind of vocabulary in our society now, where people are realizing, I think they call it a term, toxic positivity or something like that.
That's been up for the last few years.
And that is so true, because you're right. Most of the time when someone's feeling sad, we don't want them to feel sad. And I'm the biggest person who always wants to be the pep talk, you can do it, get back up there. And I've learned through my own experience and working with you that sometimes people just need to have their feelings. Now, granted, if it's a prolonged period of time, if I'm calling you every week saying I'm a loser, then we may need to step in and do something different. Okay. But every now and then I'm allowed to have my just loser feelings and then process that.
Right. And that's something that I talked about when just opening the show, that grief needs to be heard. Grief needs to be validated, and grief needs to be shared.
Yeah, I think sometimes many of us are confused with grief and depression. And because, there's this fear of, I don't want to be depressed, or am I going to have to get on medication because I'm depressed, which is different than just allowing yourself the whole range of emotions in life. Not unlike the weather, right? Some days it's raining, some days the sun is shining. We just have to experience them all and be prepared when each change in season happens. What do we do? If I'm feeling like a loser, then that's the time to do something different than what I'm feeling on top of the world.
Right. And I was going to say that brings me to continuing with calling people to talk to them, that sometimes people are more inclined to go down that road of, we'll just say positivity, when maybe that is not the most effective tool at the time. And I've been saying that you do need those four. Maybe this is a time to talk about 4 types of friends that you need to have.
Right.
When you're
I've also learned just to be a better friend, that when people, I have some of my friends that say, because I have a couple of friends who are going through some losses, death losses. And I said, how would you like for me to be? Do you want
Mhm.
to just be heard? Do you want a pep talk? Do you want just some encouragement? Because I know my immediate default is I want to make them feel better. And to
Mhm.
me, feeling better is to get you away from this emotion. And I've
Right.
realized that that's not always what's better. So
Exactly.
until I can kind of intuitively tell what they need, I've asked them to kind of let me know ahead of time
Mhm.
so I can listen and support from that standpoint.
Yeah, great start. I think Thich Nhat Hanh says it so well when he says, when you sit with someone, you just say, I am here for you. I
Mm,
am here for you.
mhm.
And also just never, even if someone doesn't know what to say to you, Judy, or even if you find yourself not knowing what to say, never underestimate the value of your presence. Just your presence, just being there is already a step up. It's already has put that person in a different place, has shifted them.
I'm
So
laughing, Bonnie, because you're one of those kind of people that people do want to call just to sit in your presence or just to have
yes,
a hug, whether it's an emotional hug or a physical hug. I'm
right.
not really naturally one of those kind of people. We have to kind of go with who we
Wait a
are.
minute. Wait a minute. We all have our gifts and no comparison.
Okay.
Okay? Because if I'm really feeling, like, oh gosh, can I? Judy is the one I should call. There was something. Oh, I'm just going to make everybody. Well, I'll make us laugh. I had done something that I knew was, gosh, against my better judgment. How's that?
It was your living
Taking
loss.
a job,
Your living loss.
taking a job that I really was not, as Judy said about your passion being there. It was like an end to a means. And then I had this, devastating health issue. And I just thought, oh my gosh, if I call Judy, I know she will validate exactly what I'm feeling, that I should not have done this. And not in a bad way, not like beating me up or lashing, but just affirming it. Yes, that was a time that I did not listen to my intuition. And I love that, knowing that I had someone to go to
Right.
versus my sister and my niece were saying, oh, you're just not used to working every day.
Yeah. And you're
And
right. We do need to have in our arsenal certain people that we can talk to. I mean,
right,
sometimes you do need a professional with professional training and someone who doesn't have any
exactly.
emotional attachment to you. And
Right.
I think the pandemic has made us more and more realize the importance of
Mhm.
having mental health, and it's not a bad thing or something to be ashamed about. Particularly in the African American community, we're not necessarily prone to go out and get outside help. And I think now
Yes.
people are realizing that no, just like you need a physical workout, you need a mental workout with a
Right.
professional. And
Right.
then granted, sometimes a group support can be great too. Because sometimes it could be more economical to do it with the group, as well as listening to other people's experiences adds more perspective to yours. At least
Mm.
that's what I found. I realized, oh wow, my stuff's not that bad listening to this particular person. Or
Yeah.
hearing that person say things, I'm like, wow, I'm saying
Mhm.
that too. And I can see how off it sounds. And there's times you just need just a pal where you can come up and say, I feel like a loser today.
Yes. 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 And not when someone that says, "Oh no, you're not a loser. You're a
Right.
champion. Look at all
Yes.
these awards
Yes.
you have. How can you feel like a loser?"
Yes, exactly.
Just
'Cause
to
this
be.
is how I feel. But you said we're still new to dealing with living losses. I didn't
Yes.
realize that a loss of a because it felt like such a first world problem, okay? That I'm
Mhm.
thinking, wow, that this is really grief. I thought grief has to be, wow, you've lost a parent, you've
Yes.
lost a
Somebody died.
child, you've lost your leg. That's grief. And I realized,
Exactly.
no, grief is, as you said, all different types of loss. So they
Mhm.
be
So
granted, you may come at it a different way, but some of the principles are the same. We're feeling
right. Right.
sadness, regret, loss, fear about the future, looking back over the past, sometimes being immobile to really move
Mhm.
forward. All those things are the same, regardless of what that loss is. So I'm just so glad that you're doing this, Bonnie, to make
Right.
more people aware.
And the more that we can talk about grief in this, I'll call it, a safe container. The more that we can talk about this in the safe container, the more we can be there for people that are in
Yes.
grief. We become comfortable because we're making it a part of our conversation and making it a part of the dialogue.
You said, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
You said earlier about doing certain rituals. And I think that's something that unfortunately we've lost in our society. And I think that's important too. If we could have certain kind of grief rituals can sometimes ease the process. And, you know, make it more kind of like a beginning or an end, or just, you know, I think on a spiritual level, just something. So I don't know, maybe you need to come up with your own grief ritual if someone is lost their job, or lost to just have some sort of disappointment, loss of a dream. What ritual do you do to get back? Now, I found journaling was very helpful for me. It's not quote unquote a ritual per se, but it became a ritual for me by journaling. Then I could really get out some of the toxic thoughts that were in my head. And when I saw them on paper, they lost some of their sting. I could put it in a different perspective.
Right. And so journaling works for you. Anything of being in nature, some people really can find a very, very deep resonance and a sense of peace just being in nature. Does any of that work for you, being near water?
Doesn't work for me. But that's why it's great to have like a little arsenal. Like it'd be great if there was like a little checklist. So maybe some things that I maybe have not considered, I may do. And other things that kind of, I realized, I didn't realize that was a ritual, but it is. It kind of validates that, you know? I didn't realize that journaling was a ritual. I just knew that I felt better when I did it.
Yes. And rituals never have to be anything elaborate. You think about every morning when you get up and you wash your face and you brush your teeth. That is a daily ritual. That is shifting from night to day.
That feels more like a chore. Okay. There's chore, there's ritual.
It is a big ritual. There's each tooth that's left there. So anyway,
I feel like rituals have a little bit more spiritual component to it. That's
ritual ceremony.
Yeah, some sort of ceremonial and some sort of a transformation attached. I mean, I guess you can say brushing your teeth is a form of transformation, but not on a deep spirit level.
Yes. Yeah. I was just going to say, we each can create our own ritual because our ritual is deepened by our intention. You know what?
But sometimes we don't know how. I just want to say that you're the queen of rituals, Bonnie.
Yes. Well, last week we went into rituals. Please watch last week's show on the power of ritual for grief.
Yeah. For those of us who don't really understand the importance of ritual, or we think rituals are somehow scary, or you know, in our society so many rituals have become commercialized too. I mean, things that we used to do in the past to kind of celebrate the change in seasons, many times they're more like, you know, some sort of a holiday or a barbecue or something. Nothing really related to touching your spirit and acknowledging a change that's happening.
Yeah, well, that's how a lot of the natural in rhythm with the earth cycles got hijacked, was by religion, and now you know, commercially,
yes, exactly,
being out with that. And it's up. Here's what I want to say to that: it is up to each one of us to ritualize whatever it is that we feel passionate about, whatever we feel that we want to bring a sense of sacred, regardless to what, you know, society is doing. Not feeling, because so many times I hear, you know, we're doing this and we're doing that. And it's like, when we say that we forget we're a part of it. So can we take ourselves back out of it and say, yes, I know. For instance, you know, Christmas has become so commercialized. It's like, what am I doing with Christmas? Just giving yourself a sense.
And that's why we need your book to come out, Bonnie, to remind us of these things, okay? When you say it, I like, yes, but in the moment of it, I don't necessarily, or I don't know what to do, or I'm too wrapped up. So I think it's so important to have these conversations. And I said, to have you, I'm giving a little commercial for you, to have someone like you to be able to hire or read your upcoming book to help us get back to center, because we have more things taking us away from center than we have helping us get center.
Helping us maintain it. And that's what I was going to say. That's exactly the reason that ritual exists, because ritual gives you that sense of control over a time that your world has been turned upside down, the rug pulled from under you. Having that ritual gives you back to your center allowing you to feel that there is a sense of control, because that's what most people when they're in grief feel, the sense of it just being out of control, that life is never going to be the same again. But the more we can ritualize and bring ritual to it, the more we can hold on to that hope. I just wanted to ask you a couple more things. I know you said journaling was one of those saving graces for you, but you also alluded to spirituality. And I just want you to touch on that. How did that allow you to move or shift or to just be with what was?
Well, and I'm going to say, even though I was raised in a Christian church, it never really spoke to me. And this is not a dig against Christianity. It's more like
Yeah.
just finding whatever is spiritually grounding for you. As you said, some people it's out in nature. For me, chanting every day was my form of spirituality because it allowed me to just kind of, go within. It was kind of rhythmic to it. But when I first heard chanting, it didn't speak to me in that regard. But I just allowed myself to experiment with different sorts of spiritual faiths until I found something that really resonated with me. I don't understand how people can make it without some sort of spiritual grounding. That's just
Right.
whatever it is. Once again, I'm not saying Buddhism, but that's just what I do. But I feel like life buffets you around so much that the spiritual anchor. Without my spiritual support group, I don't know how I would have made it during the pandemic. That was another time of a huge living loss for me because I was forced to close my business for 3 months because we're not considered an essential business. I also had some rental property and all of my tenants had moved out of the area because they were wanting to get away from a big city. It was the first time in 30 years I had no tenants in the building. So I'm dealing with both the financial loss as well as the other losses we were dealing with the pandemic, where not being able to gather with people, not being able to go to work. It was like a huge period of loss and isolation. And without a spiritual practice, and we then went on Zoom, or we could connect by Zoom and chant together, I personally don't know how I could have made it. If anything, now I came out stronger because I kind of deepened my faith, and I realized that I'm stronger than I realized. I hope never to experience that again, but to realize that I can survive that. I can get through that. And it gave me a chance to kind of slow down and start thinking about other ideas that I'm now implementing now.
Yes. And I was just going to say that pandemic really gave people the opportunity to just sit and be still.
Yes. But opportunity, you're right. That doesn't mean that people use opportunities in different kind of ways, right?
Exactly.
Some people got highly depressed. Yes. We always have the choice. We have the choice, right? Is this an opportunity to help me get better or an opportunity that's going to take me down?
Right. Yeah. So, and I was going to say, I feel that we have yet to deal with that period of the pandemic and the loss that was.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge
I don't want
loss.
to say inflicted, but the loss that so many people had to deal with. People are still, I have friends who still cannot articulate the depth of that loss.
And
just
people who have maybe lost a loved one during that time, or I have a neighbor and her daughter didn't get a chance to go to her graduation. And she just feels like, wow, as much as now I think, a graduation ceremony is so boring. If I never go to a graduation ceremony again, fine with me. But that meant something to her. It was like a ritual that was taken away from her that she could never go back, and she'll never graduate from high school again.
Exactly. Mine came in the form of, I was doing my religious science practitioner studies. And usually it's a big event. You have your, what they call panels, where it's, everybody supports each other. Everybody comes together in this big room, and you go off and you're quizzed and grilled by this panel, and you come back and you find out if you were successful and can go on and get your license or not. And what would happen in the past is that, everybody would wait for each other and be in the room sending prayers and good energy for that person to really be successful. But we had to do it on Zoom. There wasn't it was like so anticlimactic. It felt so clinical. And anyway, I'm just saying there's so many, I'm glad you brought that up. So many losses that happened during the pandemic. That wasn't just the loss of lives. And those people that lost loved ones and had to see them for the last time, like on an iPad. I mean, I just can't even imagine.
Exactly.
So
I need a whole course just on that, Bonnie. Let's have a grief doula session on the pandemic.
I was going to say, collectively, we are in the midst of it. And I think that keep it in the eye, I feel that then that intensifies any other losses that you have, because you have this big mother up here that you haven't even tapped into. And then to have your ongoing losses only intensifies it.
Yeah, because part of it is that we just want to like get away from that as soon as possible, you know?
Yeah, we want to forget.
Yeah, versus realizing, okay, let me go through a process of healing from what that meant. And then I can feel even better, versus trying to ignore it makes you think you're feeling better, but it's just stuffing the feeling down inside. Yeah.
Judy, I realize our time is slipping away.
Oh,
no. I know, we're just beginning. But here's what I want to ask you. I want to ask you, what advice would you give to someone that is in that place that you were many years ago, with the loss of a business, the loss of something that you really in your heart held on to as being a goal? What advice, or what would you say to them?
I'd say develop some resources to help you heal. And what I mean by that, there's books that you can read, there's counseling that you can get, there's getting support from loved ones. But most importantly, it's just allowing yourself to have the feeling and then determine what's going to be the best choice to help you heal. Maybe you just need to be in private and journal for a while. But I guess the main thing is just don't beat yourself up. I flogged myself for the longest time about it. And I think there's only one thing. It's like, don't beat yourself out. It's no different than if all of a sudden you broke a leg. You would find different ways to get some support. You might see the doctor. You may go get your x-rays done. You go see a physical therapist. All of these components help with the healing. I think the same thing with some sort of grief. There's maybe not just one component, but many things to do to help you get to the other side. Grief is just as much of a wound as any other kind of cut. Yes.
As a physical wound.
Yeah. And to see it as that. I think sometimes when it's an emotional thing, at least for me, I always think emotional things, I can just use my mind to get over it. Just sludge on through, versus realizing, no, I maybe need some tools here to help me get to that.
Right.
Sometimes it's existing tools that I already had, I need to deepen. Other times it's try some new tools. Maybe I should go out in nature a little bit more. Bonnie, did you mention that?
Well, not in the rain, not right now, maybe swimming through nature. Since we're here in California, it's pretty wet. I think that's beautiful, Judy, especially when you talk about reaching out.
And of course, hiring your doula for grief. I'm sorry, Bonnie. I've learned so much about grief through you. Bonnie, I've known you for over 30 years. Let me just say a little bit for Bonnie. And I'm just really seeing how I didn't even know what a grief doula was. Just like you didn't know the mannequin recycling thing existed, right? And I realized, like, where have you been all of my life? It's like, wow. All of a sudden I realized, wow, I'm so glad we're having a conversation about grief. Because normally grief is like a word that we want to just avoid, right?
Oh, yeah. People still do not want to. People do avoid.
Okay. All right.
I was going to add before, I just see that we have Christopher White. Are you familiar with Christopher White? He's from Detroit. So hello, Christopher, and thank you for joining the conversation. And
Detroit. Hey, Chris.
Yeah. And is that your buddy? Oh, well, he's our buddy now.
Okay.
He's a buddy. And what I wanted to offer, Judy, when you were talking about what to do and talking about it and being easy on yourself, I have this recipe for friends that we should cultivate. If you have 4 friends wrapped in one, that's great. But if not, these are the 4 friends, and this is from Tim Sumberland's book, The Grief Journey. And he says the 4 friends that we need when we're going through a period of loss. And the first friend is someone who has suffered the exact same loss that you have.
Okay.
Be it loss of a business, be it, a divorce. Somebody that knows, not that can say, oh, I can understand, but they can say, yeah.
I've been there.
I know what you're talking about.
Right.
And the other friend is somebody who treats you like nothing ever happened. It's like, come on, Judy, it's time to go to the movies and it's time for us to have fun. You need that. And then you have the third friend. And the third friend is someone who listens, who doesn't say anything, whose lips are sealed to give comments or criticism. They are there to listen. And the fourth friend is a truth teller. The one that says, oh, Judy, I notice you've been eating, a couple gallons of ice cream every week. That doesn't, I see those containers in your, or I notice you've been drinking too much, or I notice that you have been hibernating. So you need a truth teller. So you need all four. You really do. And after that, if you still need help, reach out for professional help. I have another friend who's also a coach, a life coach. And he says, I'll hold the light while you do the digging. And that's what,
that's beautiful. Well, Bonnie, I can say when I was going through my divorce, you were that friend who had all of those.
Oh,
okay. You hadn't suffered a business loss, so you couldn't be on that perspective.
But I've suffered the loss of a marriage.
Yes.
I could definitely attest to that. Oh my gosh, Judy, this time it's gone by so fast. Joe, can you put up Judy's website again? I mean, her website. I want you to go. She offers some beautiful classes on headdressing, on headdresses. If you want to feel like a goddess or feel like a king, get those guys out there too.
Yeah.
We want
everyone
to come out. And so check out Judy's website. She's the most beautiful video for her headdress.
But I was going to just add it in case someone else has a living loss related to a business and wants to talk to me about it, they can reach me through the website.
Oh, wonderful, Judy. You've just been all that I proclaimed you would be. Magnificent, stellar, powerful.
You're not too biased, are you?
I just can't believe that the time goes by so fast. Yeah. And I just want people out there that are listening to know that if you're going through any type of loss, you do not have to do this alone. You do not have to do this alone. And know that you have, I'm sure if you look around, you have people that care about you. Mm-hmm. And if you're on the other side, that you have a friend who you know is suffering, please reach out to them. Please reach out. And as I said, if you don't know what to say, you can just say, I don't know what to say, but I pray for you.
Gotcha.
And that's you as well.
Gotcha.
So, thank you, Judy. Oh my gosh. We'll have you back. We'll have you back on other topics.
Thanks for just bringing this conversation out there, Bonnie. And when you first asked me to do it, I was so far away from my business failure, I forgot that it was a living loss. So just talking about it now is just great to put things in perspective, hopefully encourage other people. And as a reminder, when some future loss comes my way, what steps I need to take.
Right. And knowing that because you've had that, you've gone through your process, you've done your work, as they say, that another would not be as devastating because you have gotten your tools.
Gotcha.
Your tools in order. So thank you so much, Judy. I can't wait to have you back. Can't wait to have you back. I just want to do a little promotion for New Thought Media Network. Please reach out and make a donation to New Thought Media Network. And NTC, is that it, Joe? For donate. The donate button is right below. Also, thank you so much. ntmedia.org/donate. Also, I would like to promote Centers for Spiritual Living is having the Vista Conference, which is coming up February 20th through the 23rd. And I will be one of the workshop presenters doing what I do best. On February 21st is my date to present from 2 to 3:30 p.m. And I will be presenting on the healing and transformative powers of grief. So I look forward to seeing you there. So check it out. So wonderful. So this is your doula for grief, Bonnie Gonzalez. I am available for grief coaching. Please reach out. Please just don't do this alone. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll see you next week. Ciao.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.